So this sitter sale video might be longer than most of my other sitter sale videos, and that's because not only are there a bunch of really great releases dropping in the second half of April of 2021, but there's just a bunch of releases in general dropping in the second half of April. So in this video, I'm gonna try and cover all the important releases without forgetting any, and we're just gonna try and plow through it because there is a bunch. And a few of them are releases that I've been looking forward to for months, and now they're finally dropping, and I can't wait. What's up everybody, I'm Seth Fowler, and this is Sitter Sell. As always, thank you so much for tuning in today. Whether you're new to the channel or you've been rocking with the channel for a long time, I really appreciate you being here. So please make sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell down below if you haven't yet and you want to see more videos just like this. And also make sure to give me a follow on Instagram and on Twitter at @RealSethFowler. And as you already know, because you clicked on the video, this is Sitter Sell for the second half of April 2021. And what that means, if you're not familiar with myself or this series, we take a look at all of the sneakers or the important sneakers releasing in the second half or first half of any given month. In this case, obviously, second half of April 2021. And I let you know what I think about each one of these releases and whether I think each one is gonna sit on shelves or sell out. So why don't I stop wasting both of our times and let's start out on this sneaker trek or sneaker journey on April 16th. And starting things off on the 16th, we've got the Sean Witherspoon Adidas ZX8000 Super Earth. Now, I don't know what keeps happening with this shoe, but this shoe keeps getting pushed back. And because of that, it's been in like 4 different sitter sell videos at this point. I think the shoe is fine. In fact, I did an unboxing of this shoe like a month and a half ago because Adidas sent it out back then, I think probably before the first release date, and it's one of those shoes that I think is definitely an acquired taste. So the idea behind this shoe is that the entire sneaker is made up of vegan leathers and recycled materials. It's supposed to be super earth friendly, that's probably why it's called the Super Earth, and it definitely has a very recycled aesthetic. Now with that being said, I think this aesthetic is probably not for everyone, and this shoe is definitely one of the more wild looking sneakers on today's list. The Sean Witherspoon ZX8000 comes in a mix of browns, reds, blues, purples, greens, yellows, pretty much every color that you can think of, and they all kind of mash together on the upper of this shoe. Not only that, but you also have these interesting like threads hanging off from the embroidery on the sides of the sneaker. That was done on the previous Sean Witherspoon collaboration, and it's one of the things that I feel like they could have left out, but hey, it's just my own opinion. It's definitely a polarizing sneaker. It's one of those looks that you either love or you hate, and because of that, I think it just won't have the mass appeal that a lot of the other sneakers on the list will have, so for that reason, I'm gonna give this shoe a sit. Next up, we've got the Nike Air More Uptempo Black and Red. This is one of those classic uptempo colorways. When you think of a pair of Nike Uptempos, you probably think of this shoe. The upper of the shoe comes in bright red, which is accented by black air text, which also is outlined in some white. The midsole of the shoe comes in bright red, and the outsole finishes off the look in white. This is definitely a clean look, and if you're a fan of uptempos, I'm sure you're gonna be into this shoe. And most likely, because of the rich history behind this shoe and this colorway, I definitely see this shoe selling out. After that, we've got the women's Nike Dunk Low Glow Green. The swoosh seems to be dropping simple Nike Dunk Low colorways almost every single weekend at this point. And you know what? I'm not mad at it. And I've got to say, this is a pretty clean look. You've got a primarily white upper accented by sort of light green or glow green paneling, as well as a white midsole and a glow green outsole. Construction wise, this shoe is no different from any other Dunk Low, but the colorway is a little bit different than usual, and I think a lot of people are going to be into it. Unfortunately, if you're a larger footed dude, you're not going to be able to rock this shoe because this is a women's exclusive. But even though the size run of this shoe is smaller than most other Nike Dunks, I definitely think this shoe will be just as popular, and I definitely think the Nike Dunk Low Glow Greens will sell out. Then moving on to April 17th, we've got the Adidas YEEZY Boosts 700 in the bright blue colorway. So this Yeezy 700 seems to take the same color blocking approach as the Yeezy 700 Suns did, in that they have one half of the shoe in one bright color and the other half of the shoe in another bright color, and both bright colors are kind of out there. The top half of the bright blue colorway comes in, as the name would suggest, bright blue. Okay, I guess to be fair, it's not all bright blue, it's sort of like a tonal blue. You've also got some black and green accents on the front of the toe. However, the midsole of the shoe does come in almost entirely orange. Even those little circles towards the heel, they're not an accent color, they're just a slightly different shade of orange. You still have that black ink blot detail sort of spilling over onto the forefoot of the midsole, which actually looks nice. It's a nice accent piece on the midsole. And then rounding off the look, you've got a black rubber outsole. Now personally, I am not a fan of this colorway. I know I asked for more bright brightly colored Yeezys all the time, but this is definitely not what I had in mind. I mean, overall, the shoe isn't bad, and I definitely don't hate the colorway. It's just not a colorway I'd ever really see myself rocking. That said though, it doesn't really matter what I think, it only matters what the people who are buying the shoe think, and I think there's a lot more of those people out there than people who don't like the shoe, so because of that, I think this shoe will probably sell. Then rounding off the 17th, we've got one of the most highly anticipated releases of the entire year, and that's the Air Jordan 1 Hyper Royal. Air Jordan 1 releases are always hot, or at least I guess over the last couple of years they've been hot, and every single Air Jordan 1 release seems to sell out. However, there's always a few Air Jordan 1 releases throughout the year that just kind of make people go crazy. And for some reason, the Air Jordan 1 Hyper Royal is one of those releases. This shoe comes in a white leather upper accented by worn blue nubuck looking paneling, as well as some gray suede hits around the ankle and on the Nike swoosh. And let me just say, I think it's a great looking pair of sneakers. However, I feel like the hype for this shoe is a little misplaced. And I know that's crazy to say as just a giant Air Jordan 1 fan, but this shoe is not the best Jordan 1 dropping this year. I get that people like it, and I get that it's gonna be insanely popular, but it's not the best. But hey, maybe my thoughts will change. I do have a pair coming in the next couple days for an early review, so make sure to stay tuned for that and subscribe if you haven't yet. But to be honest, it doesn't really matter what I think. This shoe is insanely hyped, and the Hyper Royal Air Jordan 1s will definitely sell. Moving on to April 19th, we've got the return of a classic with the Nike Air Harachi in the Scream Green colorway. This OG Air Harachi colorway comes in primarily white with hits of course, green, as well as blue and black. The neoprene upper makes the shoe very breathable and comfortable on foot, and even now, decades after the shoe initially released, it's still a very futuristic looking silhouette. Now, because this shoe is an OG colorway of an incredibly popular Nike silhouette, I definitely see the Nike Air Harachi Scream Green selling out. Then moving on to 420 or April 20th, we've got a very 420 inspired sneaker, and that shoe is the South Park Adidas Campus 80 Towley. So if you're somehow not familiar with South Park, which I guess some people aren't, this shoe is inspired by one of the characters called Towley, who is always, what can I say that won't get me demonetized? Hi. And Towley is literally a towel that just smokes a lot, and this collaboration is based off of that character. At first glance, you might not realize that this shoe is a South Park collaboration. The upper of the shoe comes in sort of a bluish purple towel-like material, and the only thing that really gives away the fact that this is a Towley inspired shoe are the South Park eyes on the top of the tongue. But my favorite detail on the shoe isn't the eyes themselves, but what they do when you actually walk outside. So the eyes on this shoe are UV sensitive, so when they get hit with sunlight, they actually change color and become blue and pink. It's a super cool detail, and I love the effect. And in my opinion, this is a great example of an excellently executed collaboration. I mean, you could have literally just embroidered a picture of Towley on the side of the shoe and they could have called that a collaboration, but they didn't do that. Instead, they made the entire upper of the shoe that towel-like material, as well as giving him color-changing eyes, which I think is such a great detail. It's an awesome collaboration, and I think a lot of people are stoked on it. And crazily enough, I think this is going to be one of the first Adidas Campus 80s to sell out in a very long time. Then moving on to April 21st, we've got the Nike Air Max 95 Home Team. So this is another shoe that we covered in a previous sit or sell video, and I think it's because this shoe was pushed back. This is a LeBron James inspired sneaker, and the reason for that is because the Air Max 95 is his favorite Air Max silhouette, and he's also now on the Lakers. One of the things that makes this shoe so interesting is the mismatched colorway on the upper of the shoes. The left shoe comes in tonal yellows, and the right shoe comes in tonal purples. And if you're a fan of the Lakers, or maybe your high school basketball team has purple and gold colors, then this is a great shoe to pick up. It's definitely not a bad look, and it's not really for me, but I still think there's enough interest on this shoe, and I also think it's going to be a little bit limited, so for that reason, I think this shoe is going to sell. Next up is a shoe that I've been anticipating a lot personally, and that's the A Ma Maniere Air Jordan 3. So it feels like the phrase of the day, but this is another shoe that's been pushed back. So I think this shoe was supposed to release at the end of March, but it got pushed back because of supply chain issues. But I've got to say, this is one of the cleanest Air Jordan 3s I've seen in a very long time. From what I can tell, this shoe is sort of a premium take on the Air Jordan 3s and comes in a beautifully muted colorway. A majority of the upper of this shoe comes in a white tumbled leather, accented by some really nice light gray suede on the heel and on the toe cap. But what I love most about this shoe are the very muted maroons that you find around the heel of the shoe and throughout the sneaker itself. It's such a simple colorway, but it comes across so well. Not only that, but the material quality seems so nice, and also the finishes, like for example the sort of stitch details on the sock liner of the shoe. I think that looks incredible. Everything about this shoe is just so clean, so premium looking. I've got to grab a pair. Now unfortunately, because this shoe is a collaboration with Jordan Brand, it's probably going to be very, very limited and very difficult to get. And because of that, the resale price of this shoe, I'm sure, is gonna be insane. Oh, and if anybody has a pair early that they would let me review, I'd love to check this sneaker out. It's honestly one of my favorite releases of the entire year. But all that said, the Amarante Air Jordan 3 will definitely sell out. Continuing on to April 22nd, we've got the women's Air Jordan 1 High Zoom Kalifia. So this shoe is apparently designed, or maybe partially designed, by Aleli May and comes in a bright green and blue upper. And I'm trying to remember what I read on the Nike Sneakers app. I think it's something like the shoe was inspired by her LA roots or something like that, which would make sense. But to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of this colorway. I think the tones of the blues and the greens are just too close, and they kind of get a little bit muddy in the upper. And there's also something about the back ankle area of the shoe which I just don't think looks quite right. So for me personally, it's a pass, but at the same time, this is a women's only release and it wasn't made for me, so it doesn't really matter what I think. But because of the fact that this is an Air Jordan 1, I think that there is gonna be a lot of interest in this shoe, so for that reason, I think this shoe could sell out. Moving forward to April 23rd, we've got two different colorways of the Nike Space Hippie 01s. The first colorway is the Healing Jade colorway, which comes in a mix of grays and greens, and the second colorway is the Black Volt colorway, which comes in primarily black with some Volt hits. Now, if you're not familiar with the Space Hippie collection, the idea behind this collection is that the shoes are made up of recycled materials, or at least a portion of recycled materials. And back when the Space Hippie collection first released, all the colorways immediately sold out. Like, it sold out so quickly I couldn't even grab one. And I think out of all the Space Hippie silhouettes, the 01 is probably the most wearable because it looks the most normal. And while I don't think either of these colorways are the most hyped up out of any of the Space Hippie colorways, all the Space Hippie 01s up to this point have sold out, and I think there's still a good amount of people out there who want a pair of Space Hippie 01s, including myself. So for that reason, I think both of the colorways, the Healing Jade and the Black Volt, will sell out. Also releasing on the same day, we've got the most popular of the Space Hippie silhouettes, the Space Hippie 03 in the Healing Jade colorway. So this was actually the Space Hippie shoe that I could get my hands on. I had to pay resale for it, which was kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. And this shoe is definitely a futuristic silhouette. I mean, even down to the lacing. Like, you have a pull lacing system. It's weird, but people like it. The bottom half of the shoe, though, does seem to be the same as the Space Hippie 01. However, the top half is definitely a more sock-like and mid-top fit. I think people like the 03s more than the 01s just because they're a more interesting and more exciting silhouette. And because of that, I think if the 01s sell out, the 03s will definitely sell out. Then rounding off April 23rd, we've got the Nike SB Dunk High Hawaii. So at first glance, this shoe just looks like a Nike SB Dunk High with sort of a teal and pink floral print. However, that's not all there is to it. Apparently, the more that you wear this shoe, the upper actually wears away to reveal a shaggy green suede. This Hawaiian themed sneaker also comes with cream hits on the Nike swoosh as well as the midsole and outsole, and overall, it's a very clean look. It also kind of seems like a surprise release. Like, I didn't hear anything about this sneaker until like yesterday, and the shoe comes out in a week. Definitely a good looking sneaker, and one that I think a lot of people from Hawaii or people who love Hawaii will be trying to pick up. I wish they made a Baltimore Nike Dunk High. It'd probably be pretty cliche, like it'd probably be crabs or something. So maybe not, just keep it. Continuing on to April 24th, we've got the Nike Air Griffin Max 142. This Griffin Max 1 comes in all black with some white accents and sports the number 42. Now the reason that number is important is because that's Jackie Robinson's number, and this shoe is releasing in honor of Jackie Robinson. According to the Nike Sneakers app, this is a pretty limited sneaker, and I think it has a lot of appeal. Whether you're a Nike Air Griffin Max 1 fan, whether you're a Jackie Robinson fan, or you just love limited shoes, this shoe is definitely going to be popular. And most likely, the Nike Air Griffin Max 142 will sell out. Also releasing on the same day, we've got the Air Jordan 11 Low Legend Blue. This shoe's colorway is very similar to its big brothers. It's got a white upper accented by white patent leather, a white midsole, as well as a semi-translucent icy blue outsole. The Legend Blue 11s from 2014 were one of those colorways that just always eluded me. I could never find it for retail, and so having the chance to grab the low top version of the shoe, which is arguably a better summer sneaker, is pretty exciting. I mean, if you think the sneakers app is bad now, in 2014 and even before that, you had Nike.com. Which at the time was garbage. And trying to grab this shoe on my phone on the subway on the way to work was just not happening. And so for me, while this shoe is not a must-have, it's definitely a shoe that I'm trying to go after, and I think it's a shoe that's going to be very popular. And so for that reason, I'm giving the Air Jordan 11 Low Legend Blue a sell. And then rounding off April 24th, we've got the Adidas YEEZY 500 Inflame. The Inflame comes in a pretty wild colorway, or at least relative to any of the other 500 colorways, which each only came in one color. This shoe features a brown upper accented by blue overlays, as well as some tan overlays. And then rounding off the look, you've got an orange midsole and an orange outsole. And while I'm not a huge fan of this color combination, I am a fan that they're trying something different on the 500s. I think this Inflame colorway isn't bad, and I think it's going to be pretty popular because it's a new take on the 500s. Now, I really have no idea how limited this shoe is going to be or how difficult it's going to be to get, but I can pretty much guarantee that because this shoe is a Yeezy 500 and because it's a brand new colorway, this shoe will probably sell out. Then moving on to April 26th, we've got the Jordan Why Not 0.4 Marathon. The design of the shoe seems heavily 90s inspired, and I actually really like that about it. But as far as Russ's sneakers go, it's the kind of shoe that I just can never see myself wearing casually, and that's kind of the case with most performance basketball shoes nowadays. It's a decent looking shoe, and I think if you're a fan of Russell Westbrook or a fan of his sneaker aesthetic, it's definitely worth picking up. But I don't know if this shoe is going to be that difficult to get, and I just don't see this shoe selling out. Following that up, on April 27th, we've got the Sacai Nike Vapor Waffle Dark Iris. This Sacai Nike Vapor Waffle collaboration comes in a deep purple upper. And based on the pictures, it also looks like the upper of the shoe comes in a nylon material instead of that sort of semi-translucent mesh that we're used to seeing. Now, to accent the dark purple on the upper, you've got a dull orange color on the Nike swoosh and around the heel of the sneaker, but the shoe does feature a bright pop color in the way of a bright white sock liner and a bright white midsole. The shoe just has a very sort of Halloween vibe to it, and I'm surprised that they didn't save this colorway until around Halloween. It seems kind of early to be dropping this colorway. I don't hate it, and I'd really like to pick up a pair of Sacai Nike Vapor Waffles just to try them out, but I mean, if this is the first colorway that I get to try, kind of bummed out because it's just not my favorite. That said, there are a lot of people out there online at least that seem like they really like this colorway, and of course it's still a Sacai Nike collaboration at the end of the day, so for that reason, I think the Sacai Nike Vapor Waffle Dark Iris will definitely sell out. Next up, on April 28th, we've got the Nike LeBron 8 Hardwood Classic. So this colorway was first revealed back in 2011 as a PE and was never released to the public. But now, 10 years later, we're finally getting this colorway on a LeBron 8 Retro. This shoe comes in a bright blue upper accented by orange laces, a white Nike swoosh, and a bright orange outsole. And if you're a LeBron fan and you love this shoe and you love the history of LeBron's, this is definitely a must cop. For me though, while I appreciate LeBron James as one of the greatest basketball players of all time and probably one of the greatest to ever do it, this shoe just doesn't do it for me, and I'm not really like a huge LeBron 8 sneaker fan. It's definitely not a bad look though, and that blue and orange just really pop well together. And because of the history of this shoe and also the fact that this release will most likely be limited, I definitely expect this shoe to sell out. After that, we've got another highly anticipated release with the Air Jordan 4 University Blue. As you probably could have guessed, this shoe comes in a very UNC theme. The upper of the shoe comes in a UNC blue suede accented by gray hits around the midsole, which have some black splatter print, as well as some black hits on the outsole. The one thing about this release that I don't really like is the oversized tag on the tongue. It sort of like falls off to the side, and I feel like it's so unnecessary. I definitely see a lot of people cutting that extra bit of tag off. It just feels so unnecessary, and for me, it kind of cheapens the shoe a little bit. Regardless, this $200 pair of Air Jordan 4s is one of the most anticipated pairs of 4s of the entire year, and for that reason, I definitely see this shoe selling out. Moving on to April 29th, we've got another shoe that was seemingly pushed back, and that's the Air Jordan 35 Smoke Gray. Like I said last time when I talked about this shoe, this is a very clean Air Jordan 35. I really love the stitch detail around the heel of the shoe. I love the colorway. I love how the gray just looks so clean on the upper, and that suede material just pops really nicely. But at the end of the day, it's a new performance Jordan basketball sneaker, and those releases never seem to do that well. It just doesn't have the same sort of appeal that a retro has, which honestly is kind of sad because I think overall it's a great looking sneaker. I feel like they did a great job with this shoe, but sadly, because the hype isn't there, people don't seem to be that interested in this shoe, and for that reason, I think that the Air Jordan 35 Smoke Gray probably will sit on shelves. Next up, on April 30th, we've got another set of shoes that I've talked about a million times, and that's the Nike Go Fly Ease. So this shoe is releasing in 3 different colorways. You've got a black, sort of a black multicolor, and then I forget what the name of the colorway is, but like a light green color. And all 3 of these colorways aren't the best, but they're definitely workable. The main thing that makes this shoe interesting is the fact that this shoe kind of splits in half so that anyone with a disability can get into the shoe without actually having to use their hands, which I love about the sneaker. And I've actually done a full in-depth review on this shoe, so if you guys would like to check that that out, there will be a link at the top of the screen. I don't know why they keep pushing this release back. It doesn't seem to make sense, and I also don't know why they're making it limited. That also doesn't make sense to me because the people who actually need the shoe are probably going to have a very hard time getting the shoe. So because of the fact that this shoe is so heavily anticipated, and also because it's probably going to be pretty difficult to get, I definitely think that all 3 colorways of the Nike Go Flyeeze will sell out. And then rounding off today's video on a very high note with one of the most highly anticipated sneakers of the entire year, we've got the Travis Scott Air Jordan 6 British Khakis. So this shoe is the follow-up to the wildly popular Air Jordan 6 Travis Scotts, except this time around they have changed things up a little bit. Obviously the colorway of the shoe is different. It comes in what they're calling a British khaki, which to me just kind of looks tan. But not only that, they've also switched up the materials on the upper to a much more hairy suede, which I think looks incredible. Of course, the shoe still features the classic Travis Scott details like the stash pockets and the orange branding on both the tongue and on the heel. Oh, and of course, the glow-in-the-dark outsole, you can't forget that. But for me personally, it reminds me so much of those wheat Air Jordan 6s. I mean, it's a very similar shoe. And I think once these shoes release, I think the wheat Air Jordan 6s might have a little bit of a comeback. While I like the material choices on this newer colorway better than the original, I think I like the original's colorway better. That olive look just was a lot more unique. But let's be honest, none of that matters. Travis Scott could release a plastic bag with a Nike swoosh on it and people would buy it. Actually, that'd be a great review. I'd love to review that. So if you couldn't have already guessed, the Travis Scott Air Jordan 6 British Khakis will definitely sell out. But with that, we pretty much wrap up all of the sneaker releases for the second half of April 2021. Now, I would love to know your thoughts on all of the shoes that we talked about in today's video and which shoes you're looking forward to most. So make sure to let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.